one question. How important is BS 1192 as a standard? Is it something that internally the users of the software have to be proficient and knowledgeable in, or is it something that comes pre-built with the software solution?
Okay, if you look at ProjectWise, the ProjectWise construction solution, we're working very closely with BS 1192 to develop an out-of-the-box solution, because the standards and the processes are obviously very important. So BS 1192 is a standard that the company needs to implement when you're looking at BIM. But our tools will come out of the box with the fundamental areas of 1192 already built in there. So when you're looking at using something like ProjectWise, you will be able to access that information with the standards already built in. We can't build every single standard because with the Olympics, with Crossrail and the other projects, there's a slight change because of the project's requirements.
You're talking about the CAD technicians or
Yeah.
drawing, if you want to use a term, in a particular way, and following the NII foundation tasks. That's what you're talking about.
That's it, yes. And the company, obviously, and the standards need to be, you need to ensure that the operators are using those
So
standards.
that's where the pain is, because that's where, you talk about, the 90% perspiration of implementing IT is actually changing your workflows to suit, because a lot of, that's where companies suffer the cost.
Yes.
And what we're trying to do with the Alliance is I suppose, with these events, is to try and maybe covertly bring the vendors together as a unit and get them to make some sort of statement to the industry, whether it's financial or verbal or whatever, to say, well, look, we're there to help. There needs to be some shift or some move by the vendors to allow the industry, or to cause them to become more interested in the solution. So there has to be some incentive, there has to be some, some incentive for them to change their ways, and that unfortunately sometimes is fiduciary, it's about money.
The construction industry has to change. That's the key. And the vendors are very keen, obviously, for you to use the technology that's available. That's how we make our money. But you have to use it in a particular way, and you have to be aware of the pitfalls as an organisation, as in a company, to ensure that you're using it in the correct way, because there are lots and lots of companies out there that have bought software, shall we say, from vendors, and within 6 months it's not working the way they expected it to work, and they've put it back on the shelf and gone back to the old ways.
Perhaps the role of the Alliance is to lobby the vendors and the governments, whatever, but it's to bring them together in such a way that you can create an environment, like say our SkillNet project, where you get your training is subsidised by 30, 40, 50%. So if you can create that situation, very like the Singaporean model, but in a much smaller way, you create a fund, industry can apply for a voucher, for some sort of incentive, some funding to assist in offsetting their costs, in reworking, in buying software and training and so on. That's really what I feel we could try to do.
You mentioned this yesterday, and I think it's key that you have the vendors, you have the universities, you have the government, you have the construction companies, the architects. They need to get together and work this through as a group, because it won't work by just having by having the vendors on side, because they're software developers. You need to have the government.
Someone moving the rest of
Yeah, you need as a group. Yes, it's key. Any other further questions, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen?
Andy, just on ProjectWise,
Yeah.
I assume it's IFC based, is it? Is IFC compatible?
It is ProjectWise, yes. ProjectWise will manage IFC files. MicroStation and our products will manage IFC files as well. Navigator, you can bring IFC files into the Navigator environment, which is the viewing environment, and build that model, and then be able to access not just the drawing information but also the textual and the content information as well. So yes, we're working very closely with a lot of organisations to manage IFC as well. Yeah.
And just with, if you have a practice, say Ralph and ArcDocs, those guys are all using Revit.
Yeah.
They will still work in Revit, and they will still work in their own silo, as you said.
Yes.
That Ralph and his designers will all design in Revit.
Yeah.
The process then, there's an upload process, I assume, that they will at a point in time upload their model to ProjectWise.
Yeah.
Or does ProjectWise pull the information up, or is it put up by FPTV?
Basically, if you're working as a group, as a team of companies within a project, you will have ProjectWise available to you, which you can upload information. Now, you don't necessarily upload a big 100 meg model. You upload the information as you develop it. So you're using ProjectWise on a daily basis. And that information knows where it's come from. It has the historic information attached to it, so it knows what it's linked to, provenance they call it. So the information is loaded up on a regular basis. And if you then have, for instance, a structural model that the architects need to view, and you make some changes to that, this is where the Delta file transfer comes in. We've done some tests with the Revit models, and there is an issue with the size of BIM in general, but certainly with Revit, and some companies are having to invest in a lot of hardware to boost that network and transfer speed. With Delta file transfer, it looks at your originating drawing, it looks at what ProjectWise is holding, be it locally or on a server in Exton, in the USA, and it just looks at the changes that have been made. It might be just one line or one window's been moved because of a door or a pillar or whatever, and it just changes that particular part of the model. So it gets rid of this issue of having to transfer large models around your network.
Which is still, with ProjectWise, my understanding is correct, is that instead of having one central model file with everything merged in together,
Yes.
you still have your 10 or 15 or 20 individual model files. And if you're a Revit user, your Revit is pulling in the MEP model or whatever other models.
Yeah.
That in ProjectWise it's a file repository.
Yeah.
You know that it's on essentially a modeling engine itself or a database.
The key for ProjectWise is we mainly understand that some architects are using our software, some structural engineers, M&E engineers will be using AutoCAD or Revit. We know that, because Autodesk have done a fantastic job, and Revit is a great product. I used to sell it, so I know how good it is. So we don't want to change and make the pill even harder to swallow. So what we're saying is, look, if you have and you're happy with what you've got, then continue to use it. We don't want to change that. We just want to manage it correctly within this BIM environment, and that's fundamental. That's key to this whole thing moving forward within the industry. It's interoperability and cooperation that's important. So yeah, I mean, we can talk specifically about your requirements. We have an exact same situation in England. I've just been talking with my colleagues who are in the civil environment. We handle a big construction company who have Revit, AutoCAD, MicroStation, everything. They just use everything because they need to. They're being asked by their clients to do it, or it's their specific requirements. And they've seen a Revit issue with India, where India are doing the modelling, but the transfer between, because of the communications in India and everything else, the transfer of the model is a real headache for them. So it doesn't work. They're looking at implementing ProjectWise to fix that problem. So it's,
Okay. Thanks, Andy. Sorry, just conscious of the time.
yeah, I could talk to you.
Just while our next speaker is Damien,